Hello, I'm Steve Leialoha. I've been working in comics for 50 years as an inker and penciler on books like Howard the Duck, G.I. Joe, Superman, Batman, but mostly was the regular inker and occasional penciler on Fables for almost 20 years. Well, the last issues had two different covers, so
Gotcha.
I don't always remember. Mark Buckingham did he did all the covers, but then they had, I don't know why they had two covers.
Yeah.
As why not?
Right.
Also, these great covers from James Jean.
Yeah. I've been reading the series again, really for the first time. I got to like about issue 50 last time, but like this time I'm going all the way through them. And I just got to the point where he stops doing the covers. The covers are still great, but I didn't realize that he stopped. I was like, wow, that's...
Well, they managed to get the next artist had a similar style.
Right.
So, João Ruas from Brazil.
Gotcha.
So, and they got James Jean right out of high school. he came to DC with his portfolio, and Shelley Bond, our editor, grabbed him and said, "We want you to do our covers." So, he's really new to it when he first started. And then he got really famous.
Yeah.
And still hung around for a couple of more years, which was very generous of him.
Yeah.
He could have been off, doing what he's doing now, which is like...
He's like an artist, right?
An international superstar in the art world.
Yeah.
And a very nice guy.
Yeah, right on.
So anyway, so
how did, so you were talking about James, so when's the first time you hear mentioning of, hey, there's this project named Fables, and they want you to come do it?
Well, as often seems to be the case, it's just one of these one-off things. Shelley Bond, the editor, asked me if I would do a fill-in inking job. They had a story that needed inking.
Yeah.
The inker that they had in mind did not work out for some reason. I don't even know who it was, and asked me if I would fill in. And I said, sure. And I really liked the story. The artwork was fabulous. And after doing that, Shelley asked me if I'd be interested in just staying on. So the first story was penciled by Lan Medina, but it was always intended that Mark Buckingham would be the regular penciler for the main storyline that would carry the series. So anyway, I think it was issue 5 or 6 that Mark came aboard, and I stayed on, and I really liked the writing and the penciling, and it was the kind of book would have been happy to actually buy and read, even if I wasn't working on it. So that's a major plus. I'd been working as an inker at Marvel and DC for a long time at that point, and got to the point where, I wanted to work on interesting projects, but working with people I liked working with was also a major factor. So anyway, it all worked out. It was all a great group of people, and
Gotcha.
I just stayed on the book for, it turned out, over 20 years. So, who knew? It certainly wasn't planned that way.
Right. And so, when's the first time that you meet, Mark Buckingham and Bill Willingham and the rest of the team?
I'd actually met Mark much earlier at one of the British comic conventions. Just in passing, he was one of the many fabulous British artists working over there. Oddly enough, the first thing I did for Vertigo was a similar sort of situation. I was in England visiting, going to one of the UK conventions, but ahead of the convention, we went to visit Brian Talbot, who was an old friend of mine. And it turned out he was finishing up the last pages of the Sandman World's End story, and he had 2 pages to go, and he couldn't go to the convention until he finished up those 2 pages, and it was a Days of Facts, and he was waiting for the script for the last 2 pages. Anyway, I just happened to be there, and Brian asked the editor if it was okay if I inked it so that we could actually get this thing done. So we stayed up all night. Brian drew it. As he finished penciling it, I inked it. Excuse me. And in the morning we had it finished, so we could go off to the convention. So I inked the very last 2 pages of the World's End Sandman sequence. And the editor, Karen Bergen, liked what it looked like, and so at that point they started considering me for doing other Vertigo books. So that was sort of my entry to that side of DC Comics.
Was that how most people got their start, like doing regular
By
work?
accident?
Well, yeah, I guess. But like for you,
No,
I mean, you had a career, quite a bit of a career before all that. But
Sure.
But Sandman, it seems like started so many folks, like they got regular work from DC and Vertigo. Once Sandman really took off, it's like, all right, we got all these other stories we need to tell. So is that kind of what you think with everybody else too?
Well, I mean, I tended to gravitate to the non-superhero stuff. So that's what I liked about working for Vertigo. And Fables, which was all, kind of like, well, at Marvel, I'd started working at Marvel on Howard the Duck. So right there, my preference was for the weird stuff. And working on Fables wasn't really all that different from Howard the Duck. Maybe not as intentionally as funny, but all kinds of wacky things going on with anthropomorphic goings on. And anyway, I gravitated towards that because it was just fun to draw. Not that there's anything wrong with, I was very happy to be able to ink Superman and even draw the occasional Batman thing. I mean, who doesn't love working on Batman? Worked on. I need a list of stuff I worked on. The Justice Society, all kinds of books at DC. Anyway, just personality-wise, I just gravitated towards the Vertigo style of books.
Right on. And so, with your many years of doing Fables, was there like a certain couple scenes that you were like, this is like some of the most fun I've had doing it, or like
Oh, there were many sequences that I particularly liked. The island of Lost Toys was a particular favorite. Well, Mark Buckingham was, in order to keep things interesting, was always switching things up. I was just looking at a sequence where all of the backgrounds were derived from Russian folktales. So it was one of the things we could do in Fables, suddenly switch styles. Whatever we felt like doing worked in context with the concept of the book. I don't know. Bill managed to keep things going pretty interestingly. So it's hard to pin down any particular moment because most of it was a lot of fun. Also, along the way, I got to illustrate a prose version of Fables, which is a whole different thing, doing book illustrations where, I mean, in comics, you have to show what goes on. In book illustrations, you have to not show what goes on because you don't want to give anything away. Anyway, it was all fun.
Is that Peter and Max? Is what you're talking about?
Yes, Peter and Max.
And talk to me about the challenges that brought when you were like, he's like, hey, here's a prose book. I know you already said like the other illustration thing.
Yeah. And a different format, working in black and white as opposed to color. It's a nice change of pace, something different to do. I mean, I was mostly the inker on Fables, but it was nice to occasionally draw stuff as well. In the original last issue of Fables, I ended up doing the very last drawing in the book, which was a bunch of cute animals saying goodbye. So, I mean, there's lots of opportunities to do different things and keep it interesting, which is a challenge when you're going for 20 years. Which I mean, it's not like they planned it that way, but it just turned out that way.
And I guess my last two questions are like, what got you started in comics? Like, what was like the main draw? Was it like you like reading comics as a kid, or like was it something you kind of just fell into? Like,
you mean for drawing comics?
Just everything, just your whole career. How'd you get started in comics? What made you get into it?
As a little kid, I was always drawing. I mean, and as I got older, the idea of making a living doing something, I only had the vaguest idea. I mean, as a kid, the idea was either become a comic book artist or become a rock and roll musician. I think fortunately the artwork end worked out better, but just, you know, reading comics, I was very inspired by Jack Kirby's stuff. I was a teenager when the New Gods started coming out, and it was all very inspiring to me. Also, I started going to comics conventions, meeting actual comic book professionals. Jack Kirby himself was always extremely encouraging to all the newcomers. He'd always say, "Someday, kid, you'll be drawing better than me," and we'd all be thinking, "Yeah, right." But it was always very nice of him to say these kind of things. But so anyway, I started working as an inker for Jim Starlin and Frank Brunner, and kind of learned how to do it by doing it. So, you know, yes, turning out hundreds of pages of inking certainly helps one improve. So,
and then I guess the last question is just like, for the people that don't know, like, and it kind of included me.
Sure.
What would you say is like an inker? What is like compared to an artist? So people are like, they kind of get like artist and inker combined. So like, what is an inker's job?
Well, the concept has sort of evolved over time. Originally, the comics companies would divide up. You know, they figure if they have somebody that draws as good as John Buscema, they don't want him wasting his time inking the same thing that he's drawing. You know, it's more productive to have him draw lots of pages and have other people ink it. And so often he would, just as one example, I think John Buscema is a good example. He would do tight pencils. Sometimes he'd do layouts. So the job of the inker would be to like finish the penciling. I liked working with John's brother Sal. Sal did really tight layouts, but for example, there'd be no shading or anything. So as the finisher, the finisher's job would be to add shadows and whatever to give weight to the drawings to make it look good. It isn't just inking. I mean, it isn't just following the lines. Just trying to. And the other one is getting it ready for printing. So you have to have a nice, reproducible line, which could be tricky in the case of pencilers like Gene Colan, who tended to do a lot of gray stuff. And as an inker, you have to figure out, how do I turn this gray line into rendering, turn it into some kind of pattern? Do I make it solid black? Do I ignore it altogether? I mean, these are the sort of decisions that you have to make as you're going along. And of course, they also want it in a rush. So,
Sure.
I mean, there's so many factors at play.
Right.
Were there some pencilers you really just loved, and others you just thought, oh my God, this is going to take forever?
Yes, I tried to avoid the pencilers that. I mean, these days a lot of pencilers do really tight stuff, so that you almost don't need inkers. I mean, a lot of them actually work that way, where they're. You know, in the digital age, you can do a lot more than you could when I started. The photography and the reproduction wasn't really all that good. Excuse me. These days, you can do amazing things with just pencil drawings and adjusting things so it looks printable. And the coloring, also digital coloring, can I'll make up for any deficiencies in the original penciling. I mean, the whole way of working these days is considerably different. Things have changed. I often wonder if there are going to be pencilers and inkers. It seems to be becoming an old-fashioned concept in itself. It seems like it's much easier for somebody to just do the whole thing themselves digitally. I don't know. It's always been a strange business.
It's always changing.